fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
It's a track that needs no introduction. It is one of the perfect places for any style of racing. This place has been so synonymous with great action. It's been so synonymous with the best that the world has ever had to offer. And this is a place where legends are made. It's the opening of a season, a revolutionary season, some would say, in the iRacing sphere, with an extra week tacked on for everybody to battle. It is the iRacing Grand Prix Series, and it is here on SimSpeed TV. And of course, it is going to be magnificent for every single week. I'm Jake Sperry here in the commentary box, joined as ever by Cam Dance alongside me. And Cam, this is a big first week. Spa-Francorchamps, a place which is, you could say, the ultimate racing circuit.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's got pretty much nearly every corner that you could possibly ask for, except for a few random ones that you throw in there on the north side. But nevertheless, it's an absolutely awesome circuit, and really, really looking forward to today and what week's one's going to show up for this season, because it's an absolutely action-packed season and an action-packed calendar.
And that action-packed calendar goes pretty much here, there, and everywhere, as everybody will get themselves ready to move forward in terms of championship pushes. And the best way to get that one going is an early start to the season. We're currently looking here at 8 minutes of qualifying. You get 2 laps to pull it all together, and it's going to be quick laps here in this Williams Toyota FW31. That's the Neo Sanfilippo that we're looking at the moment, trying to move ahead with all the results available. Mr. Consistency of last season, but needs to just find that little bit more, that winning edge. Picked up the win of week 12 last time we were broadcasting this, and of course that was at Suzuka. So Neo Sanfilippo wants to reach the promised land again. What's the best way to do that? Get yourself right up there at the top here, Cam.
Yes, certainly. The start championship off with a win would be the perfect way to start it, that's for sure. And we've seen him have plenty of pace last season, but just came up a little bit short in the championship. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this season. I mean, we might see Mark Usher be able to challenge for the title this time instead of having some minor issues, but nevertheless, it's going to be looking like it's going to be a really competitive one.
There's going to be a lot of drivers here today who will want to challenge. The reigning champion is in car number 3. That's Marco Sanfilippo, Daneo's brother, and will be trying to pull off towards the top end, a back-to-back season run, but knew that he was even with Mark Usher for the majority of the racing that was gone on. But there is also one more name to keep massive focus onto, and it's someone who's just coming onto the Kemmel Straight right now. Car number 6, Ben Fuller, may just be the bookies' favourite to take a title.
Yeah, certainly. He was very, very competitive last season, and we saw him actually win a race last season as well. So he's definitely got the pace to challenge the likes of Sanfilippo and Usher and those sort of drivers. And he came out of the blue as well. We didn't really expect him to turn up and put on a challenge that he did. So we'll see how he goes this season and whether he can actually put a championship fight together. But nevertheless, expect a few wins, I reckon.
Well, that fight is going to be key, and we're going to see these drivers all try and put themselves on a level which they know that they can really hit and try and get going. The first times will be coming in soon, as we're looking at Ben Fuller now heading through the Fania chicane and trying to make that progress through towards Campus Corner, the campus there on the inside, and then Stavolo, the small kink right being corner Paul Frere, and now moving forward. We've got drivers here today that you wouldn't normally expect to see in a race like this. We've got the likes of Kia Pollard here in this race, Joel Dickinson making only his second start from what we've seen, as well as car 16, Andre Eisenler trying to make a good run, as well as Alexi Heinonen at this point in time going on to start the lap as well. So a few drivers then here today making their top split debuts, so to speak, all their first few runs. Ben Fuller, top of the timing stands, 1:46.6, 3/10 clear of Danilo.
Yeah, very, very good start from Ben Fuller on that first flying lap, and we'll see if anybody else can match that. You got the likes of Marco, and that's still yet to set representative lap times, but lap times are still flying in, and yeah, that's a reasonable margin over someone who's very, very experienced in this car.
Mark Usher goes second on a 46.8 then to set his first run of pace, and that's going to be crucial to see then with the times. The likes of Connor Harrington currently in 6th, Diego Jimenez goes 7th, but there's Jody Mills up to 3rd place on a 46.941. Spins it though for the second lap, so will not go any quicker, and Antonio Zaragoza moves up to 5th, 6/10 off of pole at the moment, but Antonio Zaragoza's first lap looks mighty promising.
Yeah, it certainly does. He showed some potential last season, and Marco Sanfilippo straight to the top, as expected, with a 46.2.
That is 0.4 of a second clear, and you can put a bit of 6/1000ths on as chump change to go along with that. So your top 5, Sanfilippo, Marco. Then you got Ben Fuller, Mark Usher, Jody Mills, and Danilo Sanfilippo. The top 5 at the moment. But we've got to talk about this track. It is so key to be within range. We know that the draft in these vehicles are incredibly strong, but Cam, that Kemmel Straight, that run up to the final chicane becomes so very vital. Ben Fuller cannot improve on time, but we're starting to see the second times now come in.
Yeah, certainly. That run on all of these corners on these straights that lead to corners that are very, very good opportunities at passing, but Danilo actually hasn't gone quicker than his brother yet, but has gone to P2, so improvement there. And Mark Usher is still sitting in 4th and has yet to complete the second lap, so we'll see what he can do. But like you said, those long straights that lead to corners where it's a really good passing opportunity is going to be really key here, and so is the drive to save a bit of fuel. And Usher straight to P2.
Good time from Mark Usher. Goes to second. He's 2/10 off of Marco, though, at the moment. Likes of Emilio Fernandez jumping up to 17th place. But Marco is on a lap at the moment, heading to the very fearsome Blanchimont corner, trying to get something together to give even more of a margin. This is to try and set a precedent as the reigning champion to make this one work on the brakes. Chicane right, chicane left, trying to pick the power up on the exit, make the charge to the line. 146.254, 145.988. He breaks the barrier and goes nearly half a second clear.
What a lap from Marco, and it doesn't really come much as a surprise from the reigning champion, but amazing lap there from Marco regardless. And if it's anybody's race to lose at this point, it's definitely Marco's.
Alexi Heinonen over the line, goes 15th on a 47.9. 3 drivers out there on a lap. Jan Stratinsky, Dylan Freckleton, and John Pat Kelly. They've got 1 minute at the moment, and they should all very comfortably make their ways over the line. Stratinsky currently classified in 17th place, the inside of the 9th row of the grid at the moment. Would want to improve, has had some very quiet runs last season, would like to try and maybe move up a little bit here on the brakes through the right, just slightly missing the apex. They're not using all of the curb there and was a little bit narrow on entry over the line. 47.9 though does jump up a couple of positions, goes to 16th, but Dylan Freckleton goes 17th just behind, and John Pat Kelly abandons lap and tests out this pit lane. So Zaragoza as well, don't forget Antonio Zaragoza here trying to make a run to the line. I've just caught his eye, but he's not going to get a lap. So this is how the grid will stack then for the first race of the year, or the season I should say. Marco Sanfilippo, pole position 145.988. That is a world-class lap by his standard. Mark Usher goes second with Danilo Sanfilippo there in third, with Ben Fuller starting from 4th place. Jody Mills is 5th with Clayton McLeod in 6th. And then it's Antonio Zaragoza and Alex Ahuya there in 8th place. Ray Griffio in a great qualifying for him up in 9th. And Jose Serpa rounds the top 10.
On row number 6, it's going to be Tamajane and Joel Dickinson, followed by Connor Harrington and Diego Homola on row 7. Row 8 is going to be Alexei Heinonen and Jens Strutinsky. Row 9 will be Dylan Freckleton and David Cudmore. And rounding out the top 20 is going to be Emilio Fernandez and Andre Eislaher, as well as Kip Pollard and John Pat Kelly and Steve Giori running out the 23-car field.
Steve Giori, the only driver who did not set a time in qualifying, so he will start at the very back of the grid in 23rd. Not necessarily a bad idea here. There will be one pit stop for these drivers. They will look to try and take on exactly what they need to move forward in this event. Tyres, fuel, you name it. They're going to try and make sure they get there up. They've got 2 minutes, of course, to get up onto the grid, or they will start from pit lane, which may not necessarily be a bad idea, but 29 laps a day is expected to be a one-stop strategy, as is per the usual for events that naturally, compared to an FIA race distance, is at 2/3 length, 66% of what is normally 44 laps around this place. So we chop off 15 laps and see how it goes. There's the green flag though, and let's get going. Ben Fuller was quick to almost jumping, I thought, as he threads the needle, trying to get to second. On the brakes down the inside of Marco. Contact, trying to take the lead. Ben Fuller's had a stall, but did he jump the start? Trying to get that one going. That's the question that will be asked. Side by side behind though, with the likes of Ahuya and Zaragoza there, all in the mix. Jody Mills having a big scrap, but up the hill, Eau Rouge Radion, and now the Camel. Here comes back Marco.
What a move by Ben Fuller to take the lead of the race, but it's Sanfilippo going to look to go around the outside into Lecom. Is he going to stick it? It will indeed stick, so good move from Marco on lap 1 to get that position back, and that's the draft taking over and definitely playing a role in that, but very, very good start regardless for Ben Fuller to do what he did.
But did he jump? That's the question though that will be asked. Was he a little bit too early, or did he have a monster of a start compared to everybody else? I thought he twitched a little bit too early, but you can see here drivers trying to go through. Harrington there, Jane, all close, all trying to get this one going, and wide goes Danilo Sanfilippo at the double apex left-hander of Pujon, and now that's going to be, huge trouble. Zaragoza has to take to the grass in avoidance, and that was a world-class save from Antonio Zaragoza. He loses a place to Alex Ahuya, but crucially keeps the momentum going. Here comes back Danilo Sanfilippo down the inside then of Ray Griffio at campus and gets it done.
That was a big moment for Danilo. I do not know what actually happened there, whether he got just slightly loose or not, but what a save from Zaragoza. Don't know how he didn't end up in the wall or even spinning out, but great save regardless. And now Danilo's got a lot of work to do to come back from where he is.
Exactly, and that's going to be the key. What are they going to do? And look at that, straight down the inside of Ray Griffio, and almost contact for Jose Serpa. That was Zaragoza. He's through, so Ray Griffio trying to get through on Serpa now to gain the place. One very hectic lap. Already scored in the books. One driver out. That's Emilio Fernandez, who is out of this race. He is down on pit lane. He's been there for a very long time, by the looks of things, because he was caught at turn number 1 in dramas as he went through the right-hander. He tried to put the power down and, oh, bang, straight into him there was Andre Eisenlohr. That was right at the very back of the pack. Eisenlohr is in 15th place right now after that contact, but, oh, off, race leader off, Marco Sanfilippo. Ben Fuller takes the lead.
Yeah, bit of a moment there for Marco. Ran a little bit too deep into Lecom and just ended up on the grass, and that's going to cause him a slowdown, a very big one as well. So he's going to lose out to Mark Usher and probably even Clayton McLeod as well if he's unlucky enough.
Well, so now it's all changed, and surely the slowdown would now be Surd, but he's got to get the tyres back. A mistake from Marco Sanfilippo on lap 2 here of 29. He knew Ben Fuller was coming, was trying to get close, and then on the brakes into Les Combes. It was just a case of playing chicken, and ultimately he went a little bit too close to the cliff face. But now this has brought a big change. So this is how it looks. Ben Fuller leads. It's Usher in second, Sanfilippo third, and McLeod in fourth. Jody Mills round out the top 5 at this moment in time. So that's going to be crucial. But there we can see on the Motorhome Simulation replay how this is Danilo Sanfilippo running wide. And this is the save that Zaragoza had to make. Look at that. Into the grass, almost into the Armco. Does well to only lose 1 place.
Yeah, he did very, very well to not end up having his race ended on lap 1. But yeah, what a crazy start to this race with just all sorts going on. I mean, no one would have suspected that Danilo Sanfilippo would have dropped all the way just inside the top, or just outside the top 5. So yeah, what a start of a race this has been.
A crazy start, but this race is only going to continue on from here, and this is going to be a huge lap. It looks like Ben Fuller's start was good. We'll find out officially at the end of this lap if that is the case. So now we see Andre Eisenlohr comes down in. He's going to make a stop. The damage, I think, too much on his vehicle as he was struggling around out on circuit, but we've got battles up and down. This is Dylan Freckleton under pressure, and straight away Jan Stratinsky is going to pick this one up. Downforce packages. That's something to keep in mind here today, as wide will go, I believe that is Ray Griffio in here, and that could allow Joel Dickinson a chance through, and that's just not quite there. But downforce packages, it's either a low or a medium downforce here at this track, and I think those who want to be at the front pick medium.
Yes, certainly. It's one of those compromise tracks where there's no one fixed downforce package. You either want a car that's going to be able to go through the corners, or you're going to want one that goes down the straights very quickly. And Shane making a very good move on Zaragoza there, but Zaragoza is going to come back at him and down towards the next chicane, but Shane comes out victorious.
Just for the time being, but Tamashane now needs to really motor, because look at the time that was lost to Joel Dickinson. That looks around 2-3 seconds on this lap alone, just from defending here out on circuit. So easily lost his time around this place. And Danilo Sanfilippo looking like he's wanting to make a move soon, because that's Alex Ohuya just in front, the Spaniard trying to deal with everything going on at the moment through the left-hand bend of the final corner of 21 of them here at Spa-Francorchamps, and onto another lap. It seems like Danilo's got the bit between his teeth. He knows he's got to stay within a range, and at the moment the top 5 split by less than 4 seconds at the moment. Danilo wants to get close.
Yeah, certainly will. He'll want to have maximum amount of draft that he possibly can heading up towards Lecombe, and he's going to be close enough to make a move here right up over the curve as he's tucked right up in the draft, pulls out and immediately just breezes on past, with the fact that he's running so much little downforce compared to Ohuya.
Well, put it this way, Cam, 14 kilometers an hour was the difference on the straight between those. Danilo was at 307, Alex Ohuya was at 294, and that tells you all you need to know, surely.
Yeah, it certainly does. Big speed difference. Bearing in mind there's a little bit of draft helping in that, but nevertheless, there's still a radical difference in speed in top end on between those two drivers.
Exactly, as we've got great battles up and down the field right now, as every single driver is trying to make sure that they put themselves in the best possible position here in this race. Jan Stratinsky is falling off the back of this two-car scrap because Antonio Zaragoza is starting to struggle here because this is Alexi Heinonen trying to find a way through. Is the Finn currently in 13th place. He's up 2 places, 2 more. But look at this, Ben Fuller side by side as they head to Blanchimont. Now all of a sudden, Marcus trying to go around the outside, catches the curb a little bit, so he's going to have to back out of any potential move. Where did that come from? That was Ben Fuller making a small mistake, a correction, heading through Campus Corner.
Yeah, and that's all it takes, especially when you've got someone like Mark Usher hounding you from behind and is so close, and you can just see it's ridiculously close between these two drivers, and Fuller able to get a slightly better run out of the hairpin that time by, and Marco Sanfilippo's not too far behind as well, so if these two keep battling, Marco's going to be in a very nice position here coming up towards Lecum.
Oh, I absolutely agree. We're going to see this right now. There's no DRS to help them, but what they have is that toe, which is going to be vital. Usher 305, but Ben Fuller, you can see difference in the packages. Even in the draft, Mark Usher is 3k slower on the Kemmel straight. So this is key. That middle sector is all Mark Usher.
And another thing to point out, Marco Sanfilippo was at 310 at the end of the Kemmel straight. So there's some massive pace, even between Usher and Sanfilippo.
Exactly, and that's the key here. So a little bit of draft helping, but Marco has those wings absolutely trimmed at the moment as he's trying to chase down these two right now. That draft would have helped, but there is lapped traffic in the offing, and it is Diego Jimenez which is going to be that stage of traffic, which is going to be tough to negotiate a way around. But again, look at how close Mark Usher is, tucked up underneath, and now we'll try and use that draft to advantage. Closing here, and he gets the 305, and he hits the limiter right now. He can't go any quicker here. Moves through the left-hand corner of Blanchimont, and now starts falling away here with Ben Fuller up at 312. Going through this section. This is the heartbreak of choosing the medium downforce package. Mark Usher would have chosen the medium package today, thinking that he would be up at pole position as 4th and 5th. Start to battle Mills and McLeod as well, but the big issue that Mark Usher has is that he's not leading, and overtaking now is just going to become a laborious prospect.
Yeah, it certainly is, especially with the fact that he's hitting the limiter as early as he is. It's really odd to see someone of the likes of Usher not having the gearing set up for the draft, and like I said, that it could be down to the fact that he probably expected to be up the front of the field and not having to worry about this sort of thing. But yeah, it's really hurting him, and it's just going to cause him issues later on, especially with Sanfilippo and that catch up.
Exactly, and now you started to see here where philosophy comes in. It might just have to come down to pit stop strategy here today to try and make things work. What we've seen so many times before when it comes to this series is that fuel is the big mitigating factor, as Zaragoza has pulled back onto the back of Jan Stratinsky. In fact, has lost the place to Jan Stratinsky there, coming up from Eau Rouge and Radi on no pace comparatively, and then breezing on by. Jan Stratinsky moves into 13th place overall, and actually has a huge lockup heading down the Rivage corner, heading towards Jackie Ix, the former corner without a name. So this is where we're really starting to see different philosophy come into play, and this is a race which is going to be won by a battle of minds today, more rather than battles on track.
Yeah, certainly. Making sure you get that pit stop absolutely perfect, and also making sure you've set that car up as best as you possibly can. Remember, they can adjust the wing angles slightly in the pit stop as well, so you might find some drivers will possibly trim the wings out a little bit if they're struggling with a bit of straight line speed, or put a little bit more if they're struggling with corner speed. It's going to be one of those dynamics that we haven't possibly seen, but we might see today, just to help a few drivers with the positionings on track, just to help them a little bit more.
It's worth noting, though, that it's actually really close from 7th place on backwards at this point in time. Alex Avia doing a 1:49.4 that last time by. Jose Serpa was 3/10 quicker, but behind that, Ray Griffio in there with Joel Dickinson very much goes straight on at the Lassour's hairpin. Tamashane now on the back, and Alexi Heinonen is trying to close down in this group right now. They're all running at the low 149s to the high 48s at the moment, so they're very even here in the middle of the pack. So at the moment, question becomes, when does that pit window open? We expect that drivers will be pitting here with about 1/3 distance remaining in this race. So that's lap 20, maybe lap 21 at the very latest. We will see drivers coming in. So we'd say that average pit window, Cam, would probably be somewhere around lap 9 to lap 11 at the earliest opportunity. That's in about 3 laps' time.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that would kind of, in a lap sense, it would be a bit early for what we would normally seem, but obviously a long track and what would be a short race around here because of the length of the lap. It's one of those strange tracks that makes pit stops quite interesting. Cleaning a little bit of a disadvantage, but an advantage at the same time, especially if you're running like a low downforce sort of package where you're not able to really push as hard in dirty air.
Well, that's the key here. Dirty air, clean air. There are differences to be had for the way that you run around on circuit, and that dirty air does become an issue for certain drivers. Right now, Mark Usher is struggling. Look at Ben Fuller's last lap, 47.7. Mark Usher, 48.7. A whole second slower on that last run through, as now that battle for 4th and 5th negotiates traffic. All of a sudden, Mark Usher has not been able to find the consistency value, which is so key to winning these sorts of races. He now has to try and pull himself back within a second because he's lost the draft right now, and Marco Sanfilippo and Mark Usher cannot sustain the same pace that Ben Fuller has.
Yeah, certainly cannot get anywhere near him at the moment. And Mark Usher, like you said, a second slower that last time by is very odd. But Serpa looking to make a move here, possibly, but not quite able to get it done. He's going to get it done, though, but he's managed to out-drag him and straight into Lucas. He goes and into P7.
Yep, fantastic work. He's heading through Malmedy now. Goes Jose Serpa. Alex Ovilla had nothing there to really fight with that in terms of the battle. And we have also seen another change in position as Joel Dickinson has lost the place on the Kemmel as well. Tamas Jane blitzing away through, and there's the difference there of 10 Ks on the straight. It's enough to get you a whole car length and a half of an advantage before you hit the brakes.
Yes, certainly, and when you've got that speed overlap, it's just so much easier to outbrake your opponent as well, since they're sort of braking it where you would normally brake, and you're just able to carry that little bit more extra corner, well, entry speed into the corner. So it's one of those things that really does help. But what a battle this is for just outside the top 15. You've got the likes of John Pat Kelly, Zaragoza, Codmore, Giori, all nose to tail at this point, and then not letting anything go.
Zaragoza is going backwards, and it is very crucial to have a look at his front right wing end plate. At the moment, there is substantial damage, and look at how much it's costing him on a straight. Around the outside goes David Cudmore to pick up the place, and now Steve Giori, who did not qualify, looking to try and pick up one more. I'm pretty sure Zaragoza's got to pit as early as possible right now because he knows he's in trouble, and immediately he pits on the end of lap 8, so that's right at the start of the window that he feels he can come in. So Zaragoza, huge damage limitation for the man who started 7th in this field.
Yeah, do probably have a get. Well, hazard a guess that damage is probably from what happened earlier on lap 1, where he had to take evasive action from Danilo, but nevertheless, he's made that call to come in as early as he possibly can. So he's now going to have some nice clean air. But John Pat Kelly is going to have his hands full at the moment with the car of Dylan Freckleton, who's trying to make a move, but just couldn't quite get the draft engaged.
That's John Pat Kelly through on Dylan Freckleton to pick up 14th place then on the road. A easy move. And Ben Fuller right now, he's getting himself with a little bit of issues there, and in fact he spun down at Pouhon there, just catches the curb on the outside, drops the race lead, drops second as well. An uncharacteristic error from Ben Fuller, and just looking at how that happened, he just catches the curb on the outside, pushing too hard. He pretty much rides it like Tony Hawk, and ultimately he will be unable to do a kickflip, and he loses 2 places.
I must admit, it's very odd to actually see that curve isn't exactly that sharp or that big either. It's reasonably flat. So Ben Fuller clearly running the car actually quite low compared to what a lot of drivers will be doing, and that's caught him out quite badly, and he's lost 2 places out of it. So that's going to really have hurt him, but we've seen that he's got some good pace, so shouldn't struggle too much to catch up to Mark Usher and Sanfilippo. But this could be what Mark Usher needs to just break away from everybody else with the fact that he's now got some nice clean air in front of him.
Well, he's got 1.3 seconds here over Marco Sanfilippo in second, but Ben Fuller, remember, was the fastest driver of anybody at the moment. Look at Clayton McLeod, though. He's going to be under pressure from Jody Mills, closing up in the draft, going at 3:12, 3:13, looking to the inside. It could be late, but backs out of the move there wisely, does Jody Mills, not wanting to risk the race on lap 10, but all of a sudden, that 4th-5th battle has an unwanted guest. And it is brother Danilo Sanfilippo wanting to try and get back in 4th, 5th, and 6th at the moment right now as we get a replay of what's happened to Jan Stratinsky.
Yeah, he's had a moment here to turn one run a little bit deep, just locked it inside front, and that was it. Oh, and then he's had a spin on the exit as well, trying to get the power down, and it's just spat him nearly into the wall. Luckily, he didn't hit anything, but he's going to have lost a number of places out of that.
Stay on replay here because something's happened to the American Tamas Shane from Club Pennsylvania, looking to hit the brakes into the right of Lake Coombe. The left comes up, and does something happen at Malmedy corner here to make that error? Gets on the curb nice and fine, but so we look to Ravage to see what's happened here to Tamas Shane, and again, nothing quite doing here through the corner, but it might be, this one straight on. No way to save yourself with the cliff there right in front.
Yeah, just caught the outside curve and it bottomed the car, and straight ahead he went. So that's really unfortunate. He's even towed back to pit lane, so it's looking like it's probably race over, and I wouldn't be surprised if that right front's got a bit of suspension damage based on that impact.
Well, let's not also remember the fact that there are no fast repairs when it comes to iRacing official events, so even if he does tow it, if he's got suspension damage, that's it, race over. They cannot repair the suspension in these vehicles very well. You've got to hope that you haven't hit the wall far too hard in this one. Mark Usher all of a sudden has just been turbocharged at this point in time, Cam, because he's doing lap times, which he was definitely not doing when he was in clean air. His fastest lap was last time by 1:47.4, and in fact, that is the fastest lap of the race so far today.
Yeah, so clearly going to show that was just biding his time and just struggling a little bit in dirty air. So once he got clean air, that was it. He was just checking out and saying goodbye to everybody else. And now the question is going to be, can Ben Fuller actually use the pace that he had to try and catch up to Marco Sanfilippo, who was just slightly slower that last time by compared to him, about 2/10 slower?
Well, that's the key. He's got to get past Marco quickly, but Marco is starting to drop back slightly. So Ben Fuller's got to absolutely romp here if he wants to get anything out of this race, which was a race win. And remember, this was all because of lap 1, turn 1. He went from 4th to 1st with a very, very forceful move down to the inside. So Ben Fuller's got to try and make the move on Marco, and Marco's not going to make his life very easy here in terms of this race because of the fact of that move at turn 1, which he would have felt that he had right to that corner, but suddenly found, of course, at turn 1, lap 1, a Ben Fuller on the inside.
Yeah, certainly Marco's not gonna make it easy for Ben to try and come on by, especially with the fact that he knows that Ben's pretty much not going to leave anything on the table, and he's going to throw one up the inside at the earliest possible opportunity that he can have. But nevertheless, Clayton McLeod's going to have his hands full here down towards Lake Coombe when they get there with the car of Jody Mills and Danilo Sanfilippo not too far behind. They're going to be nice draft range, and Sanfilippo is going to be probably looking to try and make a move on Jody Mills as he closes up in the draft behind, and Mills goes defensive, but Sanfilippo not going to be close enough to get a move.
Well, I think there was a little case there, Cam, of Indiana Jones and Defender of the Lost Corner, because there was no chance on God's green earth that Danilo Sanfilippo was ever going to get close enough for a dive, even if he did have the toe in and available. So that's what Jody Mills was looking at, going, okay, well, he's within a range, and he'll be looking at his black box relative going, I've got a range here where I say if he's within, say, 3/10, 2/10, I pull over to the right-hand side, I defend the corner. But at the moment, it seems very clear Jody Mills, right now, unable to get by Clayton McLeod, the Canadian here. So it's going to be a case for the Brit of waiting in car number 10 and hoping that the pit stop falls in line. Half distance will be scored complete in the next 3 to 4 laps or so, and for the time being, it may be slightly disadvantageous to go in and make a pit, but when you're in the middle of a pack like this, which Jody Mills is at the moment, might it be the best course of action to try and make a stop?
This is a very good point, although he's in a very good place to try and make a move as he gets very sideways, nearly loses it, but managed to gather it up, and that's a free kick for Danilo Sanfilippo to now try and hunt down Clayton McLeod. But like you said, it's sort of a hard one because he had the pace to try and get by Clayton McLeod, but just also seemed to be struggling at the same time.
Oh, Mark Usher made a mistake at the final chicane. He very nearly looped it. He's done well. He had to fight it on power as well going through that section. The tyres will be hyperheated, and he lost a whole second. So Marco Sanfilippo back in the margin, but expect this lap to be not very quick from Mark Usher as he tries to cool the tyres down. That could have almost been a situation you looked at, Cam, and said maybe Mark Usher should have pitted there because the pit lane entry was right in front of him if he got it wrong.
Yeah, it certainly was one of those funny moments, and Ben Fuller with a mistake again, nearly putting it in the wall twice even on the throttle. So Fuller starting to possibly struggle on those tyres after locking them up earlier.
I think he's trying too hard here, Ben Fuller. You can see he had the race lead. Pressure was on him at the front after a great start, and now all of a sudden the mistakes are creeping in. It's the second one now that Ben Fuller has had, and the work will again have to be worked on to stay with Sanfilippo and Usher, who were the two starlets of last season. So now all of a sudden Ben Fuller's got to go all over again and get the move done to move up another place. So it's starting to get to struggle street here, and we've seen another little battles crop up now for 13th place because Steve Ghiori is fighting David Cudmore.
Yeah, it's currently still going on even further back in the field at the moment, and Ghiori trying to make a recovery drive, and Cudmore's going to try and do it around the outside here, and that's an easy one. But it's Ghiori coming back at him.
Oh, this is a great scrap. Around the outside again. Oh, David Cudmore moving the race so far. Fantastic work around the outside. You cannot argue against that. I think we can call that move of the season so far. But now look at Ghiori. He's going to come straight back here looking for Blanchimont and not going to have a move. He's going to sit and wait for Kinsey on the back of this one now. They go through, but look forward right now because Danilo Sanfilippo, all of a sudden, Jody Mills has got the bit between the teeth. He's going to try and come straight back here and get this one done. Up to 309, 310 goes Danilo, and the medium downforce package for Jody Mills means it's a dead heat between them.
Yeah, just running out of legs at the end of the straight there for Jody Mills, unfortunately. So going to be no pass happening, unfortunately. But he's clearly showing that he's got a lot of pace at the moment, and to be keeping up with Danilo Sanfilippo is no easy feat, as we know.
Well, Steve Ghiori actually comes down in onto the lane on lap 14 of his race. So that's going to be something very interesting to keep in mind. Was very near to Antonio Zaragoza, who's going to go by now on the front stretch. So that's the first real pit stop that we have seen from any driver since Zaragoza, which was a full 6 laps ago, mind you. So that's something very interesting to keep in mind. It is Mark Usher in car number 1 for the highest iRating in this field, who leads this race by a second and a half over Marco Sanfilippo. Ben Fuller, with the mistakes that he's had, is in 3rd position right now here in this race, trying to gather the race back up into his hands at the moment. But it's worth keeping an eye out on those gaps. 47.5 Ben Fuller, 47.7 Mark Usher, 48 flat Marco Sanfilippo.
Yeah, very, very quick pace at the front of the field, and Marco just slightly off, and Ben Fuller with a lot of pace and steam at the moment from that car. But yeah, it's one of those things, it's just seemingly struggling with possibly tyres or maybe just not quite enough aero. And that is one of those things, is as the tyres start to get older and older, if you're running this downforce, you're probably going to start to struggle a little bit more as the stint goes on. But regardless, there's a lot of pace at the front of the field at the moment, and Ben Fuller is really using that to his advantage to be the quickest one out of the top 3.
Absolutely. Joel Dickinson then has come down in and is making a stop off of the Jackson, out and away he will be going. Where will he slot out in comparison? He'll be ahead of Keir Pollard out on track. So Dickinson able to pull away and get himself onto the back of Cudmore and Co. And that's Heinonen. Heinonen in the wall at Malmedy corner then. Got it wrong through Lecombe, the second part, and he loses the back end. Tank slapper, and Heinonen is in the Armco, and he will now retire the car.
Yeah, it was a very, very solid hit to the arm cone. It was just mitigated by the fact that he had that secondary counter steer and it just spat him straight into the wall, unfortunately. So that's probably going to be a race over with the way that right front was into the wall. So unfortunate there for Heinonen, but nevertheless, still had a lot of pace and should be able to come back next week and probably put on just as good of a show.
Ben Fuller pits then from third position, very aggressive, trying to get himself through and watch on the line. He's very cautious at that point. So Ben Fuller looking to pit, looking to try and get himself as much as he can with an undercut, which he knows is the only chance he has to close up to drivers that he needs to. But as we know, undercut sometimes doesn't work. Ray Griff-Yowen also comes down in onto the lane then to make a stop. So what will these two drivers do? But Ben Fuller, where will he come out and does he have a gap?
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a very, very good question. Is he going to have a gap? It's looking like he's going to have one and going to be in nice, clean air. So he should be able to use that to his advantage to try and put him some nice, clean, fast laps to try and at least undercut the cars of Marco Sanfilippo and Mark Usher.
Now that should start the chain reaction of drivers here in this field. Expect maybe this lap by to see Marco Sanfilippo pit and the lap after Mark Usher. Usher's got no reason to pit. He only needs to cover the drivers behind. He's got 2 seconds to Marco Sanfilippo, so he can go as long as he wants to, as long as the tank lets him here out on track. So that's something just to keep in mind. Dylan Freckleton and David Cudmore now having a scrap up the Kemmel straight towards Lake Coombe, and now here looks to the outside. Dylan Freckleton on the brakes, trying, has he got a nose? Oh, he's forced a little bit onto the grass there, but Cudmore very stern in that defense, and Freckleton poking his nose where it didn't belong.
Yeah, nearly could have put it up the inside, but had to back out of it with no room, unfortunately. So Cudmore will hold on to that one for the time being, but Freckleton's wanting to get by and Usher coming into pit lane. So this is the response from Fuller coming into the lane. And Marco stays out.
He's out. That's key. That's key. So Marco's running to a number right now. Mark Usher is responding to rivals behind. In comes Danilo Sanfilippo. In comes Jody Mills. In comes Diego Jimenez the lap down, and Jose Serpa as well. It's time for the pit party. Alex O'Huia also diving in. Where is Ben Fuller? Coming into the final chicane right now. But what's key is that Mark Usher had 4 seconds of a margin here and is going to come away now. Out here he goes through La Source, which juts out into the next stage, and he retains that margin, unsurprisingly, over Ben Fuller. A good stop there from Mark Usher.
Yeah, it was actually slightly slower stop than the box as well, but identical lane time from Fuller and Usher. So very, very good stop from Usher to still have the nice big gap that he's got, and I don't think Fuller's really going to stand a chance of trying to catch him, although we'll see what happens, because like we've seen, he's got big pace and it's just going to be a matter of time before he gets onto the back of Usher.
Well, look at this. Freckleton and Cudmore, they're going to be straight up to pace, and they've got Jose Serpa in front of them, so this is a take 2. And look at this, a much better run this time from Dylan Freckleton, but this is the great equaliser right now. They're going to go 3 wide here to Lake Coombe. Jose Serpa's fresh out of the pitch. These two battling for position. Serpa backs out of it, and Freckleton runs slightly deep here, and Serpa may just go around the outside trying to pick this up. Crowds out there, David Cudmore, and gains the place back again.
What a move by Serpa to read that very, very well. Decided, I'm not having any of this into Lacombe, and then just drive it straight around the outside of Cudmore anyway when they both run wide. So very, very good heads-up driving by Serpa, and Marco Sanfilippo has decided to come in.
Yep, good call. Now has to cover Mark Usher. He's gone 1 lap longer than anybody else. He'll have the freshest tyres of the lot. Clayton McLeod will follow into the lane. Those are the only 2 of the leaders who come in and made a stop. Here's Mark Usher right now, though, making his way through the final chicane. Marco Sanfilippo just hits his box. He's got the last box, remember. He put the car on pole position with an outrageously good lap time. He's good on the tyres, he's good on the fuel, but where's he going to come out? This is going to be close between those two, but I think Mark Usher's going to have the power here to put down quickly and just goes on by. But Marco Sanfilippo now will have the draft quick, and all of a sudden, it's within a second, and Marco's immediately up to pace.
Yeah, certainly he's got the draft too, so he's going to be an advantage here coming down towards Lacombe. It's probably not quite going to be close enough. Mark Usher weaving left and right, try and break the draft, but Marco Sanfilippo going to look to the outside towards Lickham, but not quite going to be close enough.
Well, remember, it's medium versus high, low downforce at this point in time. So Marco Sanfilippo's going to just gain hand over fist in the draft. And you saw that right there. Ben Fuller's got a nice view of this one a few seconds down the road as we've got more side-by-siders. Cudmore desperately trying to get by Jose Serpa as they haven't pitted just yet and just about does so. So that's a good move. Serpa falls in behind. But at the moment, front two, look at that middle sector from Mark Usher. He has got confidence in the setup, and Marco Sanfilippo, very much in dirty air, is now falling backwards, and this is where the setup prevails right now for car number one.
Yeah, it certainly does, and this clear indication on what the differences can be and how that slightly higher downforce trim can help you, especially through that middle sector where it's a lot more technical and it requires a bit more downforce than the straights and the faster corners do. So Marco's dropped a big amount of time actually too. Over a few tenths, but yeah, it's not going to be helping him at all, but very strong on the brakes into the final chicane.
In the stop-starts, it will be Marco Sanfilippo. That'll be best, but that middle sector is going to be the great equaliser for any lap. Side by side, Cudmore and Freckleton. Once again, Cudmore all the way out over the AstroTurf. Remember, limits here are very, very close, and they're going to be side by side through Blanchimont corner and all the way forward. This is a great scrap. Serpa's in this one as well, mind you, and on the brakes they go. Cudmore slightly later, but look how deep Freckleton's gone. It's far too deep. Cudmore decides to pit, and suddenly there's a where, and there's Ray Griffioen trying to go through. 3 wide on the front, straight wide, don't we? And Ray Griffioen here might just pick up 2 for the price of 1 here as he goes on the brakes into the last source hairpin, and he's not going to get the run off the exit because we're using that banked camber to get the run.
Yeah, great move there by Hoya to stay a bit wide and get a nice clean exit off the corner, and they're going to go side by side up. El Rouge, no way.
Yes way, and now here comes Freckleton to take full advantage of this right now, and he's not going to have any draft though. We're wisely making sure that he's getting going. Cross the lanes, why don't you, like you're in highway traffic, on the brakes around the outside. Oh, fantastic, Ray Griffioen.
Yeah, great move by Griffioen to go around the outside in the draft, playing havoc in this little battle here. It's all going on between these three. There's nothing in it at all, and Ahoy is going to try and come back at him, but he's going to have Freckleton all over the back end of him if he's not careful.
Yeah, but the middle sector's coming up, and that's where you're seeing struggles. Giori side by side as well. This is Connor Harrington. Haven't spoken much about him, if anything, right now of car number 17, but Harrington is through on Steve Giori, and that will promote him up into 15th place. So a good little move there from Connor Harrington, getting this one working. Worth keeping an eye on those front two, though, for the moment. But Griffioen again right now getting himself in a good place, but Marco there almost having a moment.
Yeah, nearly had a moment there, did Marco, but Harrington having a moment there through the corner after Lecom. You put the commentator's curse on him there, Sperry, so you'll have to cop that one. Just got a little bit too sideways through the following corner and over the curb, and round he went.
Sorry, Connor, you will have a monetary supplement in the post, but look at Marco Sanfilippo up the hill, trying to get this run. Mark Usher has it covered, but around the outside, overspeed there, tyre to top. Later on the brakes goes Mark Usher. He defends that one and says, you've got to brake so much later, sunshine.
Yes, certainly did, and that was extremely close to nearly making contact as well, wheel to wheel. There was no room left by Mark Usher into the braking zone, but these two know each other well. They've raced each other a lot, so they know how aggressive they're going to be against each other. So going to be just fair play and some hard racing between these two with the last few laps coming up.
Exactly, and that's the key then to this race. Drivers will need to find positions and find them in ways that they wouldn't normally get them. Right now, Usher leads, Sanfilippo second, Fuller is third, then it's McLeod in fourth, and Danilo Sanfilippo 1.5 seconds back of that in fifth position. In this race right now, everybody has pretty much come down in and made their stops. So this is where they'll be fighting from now to the end of this race, with what is going to be 9 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line. And Mark Usher desperately needing to break 1 second because he's losing almost half a second on the straights. Look how Marco closes up, and this suddenly becomes a big worry for Mark Usher's race, because look at that gap cam, it's right there.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Usher with a big wiggle on the exit of the final chicane as well. Was very lucky to hold on to it. And this is going to allow Sanfilippo to have a very, very nice run and a nice bit of draft getting up towards Al Rouge and Lecum as well, as they're going to come up Al Rouge and Redillion, and it's going to be very close. And Marco is already there, ready to make a move. He's going to be sitting in the draft. He's going to look left and right. It's going to go defensive, and Marco's going to have to go the long way around. You can see the difference. Marco pulling alongside him and actually drafting him into Lecum, but Marco's just going to have none of it. Go straight back up the inside, and Marco's going to have to go wide.
Oh, and it's all because Mark Usher is so committed on those brakes. He brakes about 10, 15 meters later than Marco Sanfilippo does. And remember, Marco has to brake a little bit earlier because he's running at that low downforce. He can't carry the same speed through the corner. And as such, a slowdown penalty for Marco Sanfilippo. And he's got to do that work all over again now, Cam.
Yeah, he certainly does, and that's now an even bigger gap. The fact that slowdown's been had to be put in place at that corner. He's now back to 2 seconds off what Mark Usher is, so he's got a lot of time to try and find, but Giori is around.
Yep, Atlas sourced the opening corner all on his own. Oh, there was a spinner in front of him. That spooked him. Jan Stratinsky would have been blind through that section when he spun. Giori has to go straight on. And when Giori tries to put the power down, nope, it's going to go straight around, not carrying enough speed. So Giori and Stratinsky both in spins as Cudmore and Freckleton fight.
Yeah, certainly. Cudmore and Freckleton still going at it. This has been a race-long battle, actually. There's been no missing up between those two, and they've just been going at it for pretty much 21 laps straight with nothing between them, and still going on between those two. But question is going to be, when does Danilo Sanfilippo actually get by Clayton McLeod, because he's not far off now.
Well, he's not far off, but he's not gaining enough at this stage. You look at that last lap through, he lost actually 0.2 of a second. If he gets within 1 second, Danilo Sanfilippo has a chance, but Clayton McLeod, give him some credit for this. He does have that ability of top 5 finishes, if not podiums, does Clayton McLeod. He is someone who is always up there, always challenging right now, and this is going to be key for Clayton's championship. 4th right now sets him up very nicely for what he wants. I want to talk about Ben Fuller, though, for a second here, Cam. He's only 1.4 seconds off of Marco Sanfilippo. The gap down to 3 seconds at the front with what is going to be 7 laps to go when they cross the line.
Yes, certainly. And Fuller's been doing really, really good pace. He's been doing mid to high 47s. And then you look at the likes of Mark Usher, who's been doing high 47s and low 48s. So Ben Fuller's got a lot of consistency in him at the moment, and he's got a lot of pace. So it'll only be a matter of time before he gets onto the back of Marco Sanfilippo and can probably try and recover a little bit of an extra position here.
Well, he's got to get within 1 second first and foremost. Everyone's going to be pushing to try and get to car number 1, Mark Usher. That's goal number 1 here in this race as drivers hit the brakes and get themselves into the chicane. There's traffic in front of Mark Usher, though. That's Kia Pollard that they will have to try and negotiate a way around in 17th position. And that gap already down to 9/10. Marco Sanfilippo took 0.8 of a second off of him with a 1:47.1. Fastest lap of the race. Marco's got the bit between his teeth. Ben Fuller had nothing 6/10. Pollard stays out of the way of things and lets everybody know on the radio, I'm getting out of the way. I want nothing of these two.
Yeah, certainly. You don't want to hold these leaders up at all, especially when they've got the eyes on and they're just absolutely charging away from each other or towards each other. So there's going to be nothing in it, and Marco is still closing in that gap to Mark Usher, and it's going to be all on in a few laps' time, and eventually Ben Fuller's going to end up in this picture, and we're going to have a 3-way battle for the lead, if not.
Well, it all depends on how hard Marco fights with Mark. So the two drivers here, first and second, who fought for the championship last year. Marco coming out on top with a few missed rounds at the end of the season for Mark Usher. This is crucial. Oh, off goes Pollard. Off goes Pollard hard into the wall. Behind Ben Fuller, I think that was. So Fuller had already found a way through at Jackie X, and he goes hard, straight left into the wall. No front, no rear, no anything. Race done.
Yeah, it was a big impact. He just got on the AstroTurf and probably just spun the wheels up a little bit too much and straight into the Armco, which was waiting for him on the other side of the track. So unfortunate for Pollard there, is that's going to be pretty much race over at this stage. There's no way repairs are going to be quick enough to get him back out within 6 laps. But nevertheless, that battle at the front is closing, and Marco's trying everything he possibly can with the pace that he's got.
Well, you can see how aggressive he's being on the brakes. He's hoping that there's mistakes in the Brit. Mark Usher out on track. Gap across the line as they go through. Well, it stays 2/10 actually. It changes the other way. Mark Usher responds with a 47.6 and a 47.7 for Marco Sanfilippo. Ben Fuller's got nothing. 48 flat. Had to deal with traffic on that lap. A little bit tougher than the other drivers out there. Worth keeping an eye on McLeod and Sanfilippo's battle. That's 1.1 seconds at the moment, as well as this one. 7th, 8th and 9th. Serpa, Griffioen and Ahuya all closing in on each other right now, hoping that their top 10 is going to give themselves some strong points to the tune of around 120, 130.
Yeah, certainly, and that is a good talking point, is points in this long 13-week season instead of 12. There's going to be that extra one, but there's still only those 4 drop rounds, so you've got an extra week to contend with, and you really can't afford to make a mistake in it because it's not going to count as a drop round at the end of the day. So it's going to be a very long season for a lot of these drivers, and just going to be a lot about getting those points towards that championship and not making sure that you have any mistakes or have any bad results.
And bad results can be key, and we've seen how many times a bad result puts you in a poor place. Chris Owen will tell you that much every single time. Go and race, a bad result puts you backwards. And to think as well at this point in time, Cam, when we think about what's going to happen in 1 week's time, we're heading to Zandvoort, which is going to be a track where it is notoriously tough to find overtakes, to find that opportunity to make the move. So if you can get a position here now, you know that that result which comes at Zandvoort is going to be a big different philosophy that these drivers are going to all be negotiating with. Once more they close in, 5 laps to go. Gap when they cross the line, 7/10 now, and that is range for Mark Usher now to start really worrying about how much Marco can chase this in.
Yeah, it certainly is, and he's going to have to try and work this one to his best ability. He's got to really start pushing on in that middle sector to try and build that gap out to even bigger than what he currently has been, but Marco's going to be very quick on these fast and flowing sections with not a lot of downforce is required, and you can just see Mark Usher ducking left and right to try and break the draft, and Marco closing in at a rapid rate of knots, 315 kilometers an hour, 16 kilometers even into Lecom. Meanwhile, Usher only managing 302.
Well, this is key. I think Marco's even taken even more wing off the car at the pit stop. He wants to find a way through on Mark Usher, A, S, A, and P, and he's going to do that by using the draft. We know that the fuel numbers are fine for both of them, but we know with 5 laps to go, they cannot afford to fight hard. Ben Fuller is only 2.2 seconds off the back of Marco Sanfilippo. The moment they get into trouble, there is going to be fireworks aplenty, and Ben Fuller is just going to crawl up onto the back of this. Keep an eye on Clayton McLeod as well here in 4th and 5th, because there is Danilo Sanfilippo. That gap really hovering around a second. Danilo needs to close it.
Yeah, certainly does, and a 10th quicker that last time by for Danilo as well compared to Clayton McLeod. So if he keeps his pace up, he should be able to close that gap up and up to have a go later on in the race. But Ben Fuller is still the quickest one out of that top 3 at the moment, 10th quicker than Sanfilippo and 4 tenths quicker than Mark Usher that last time by.
But Mark Usher has a great lap of 47.5. The gap, half a second lost there for Marco Sanfilippo. That's key. A 48 flat's no good. But Ben Fuller, a 47.2, piles on the pressure on the front 2 right now. Replay up on screen. This is Alex Ahuya from 9th place on the brakes into Fania, and has he just looped the car around? He's caught the curb through the first part, unsettled the car, the balance, and ultimately goes for a big slide and drops time, but crucially not position. He had 8 seconds to Joel Dickinson. That gap looks like it has probably halved, Cam.
Yeah, it certainly will have, and he was very lucky to actually keep the car in a reasonably straight direction towards the next following corner as well to by locking all 4 of those wheels up. So good bit of driving there. Well, bit of defensive driving to help Hoya keep the car going in the direction that he wanted it. But Danilo is all over the back of Clayton McLeod. Just couldn't quite get the move done, though.
I thought he was going to dive there at Malmedy. He really had a good lay coom, and all of a sudden, it could have been Clayton McLeod staring at a car full of Williams Toyota FW31 in the mirrors, and that could have been really not what he was hoping to see. Dickinson under pressure as well in 10th place, mind you, Cam, because there's John Pat Kelly trying to close down in the gap.
Yeah, it certainly is. Pat Kelly hasn't really had a good start at having, well, in qualifying anyway, starting all the way down in 22nd, but he's made up 11 places, so he's been doing very, very well to make up the number of places he has, and just kept his nose clean by putting in some nice consistent laps compared to those around him. And currently he's going to be making up another one and getting inside that top 10 very, very shortly.
And he'll want that top 10, and he will need it. 3 laps to go here at Spa. Ben Fuller, 47.3. You look in front, though. Sanfilippo, 47.2. 47.5 from Mark Usher. They're pushing each other to the limits. It's 9/10 when they came over the line. Marco Sanfilippo now needs something concrete here in this section. You can see how much every single time it is Mark Usher using the downforce to go hard left coming out of Radion corner to make sure that he is covering, and he is serpentining like he's at Indianapolis Motor Speedway to try and break the draft of Marco Sanfilippo, and ultimately it's the middle sector where it will happen, Mark. So I think now this becomes a case of Marco has to close. Can he close? Can he do enough? And in the wall there is Diego Jimenez there out of La Source.
Yeah, bit of a moment there for Diego. Not quite sure what's happened there, although it does actually look similar to an incident we saw earlier in the race where drivers just getting caught out by that AstroTurf or the wheel spin out of turn 1.
Marco here has lost the place to Ben Fuller. He's made a mistake of all times coming through Jackie X corner. Goes slightly too aggressive on the AstroTurf. Big brakes to try and stop it going into the Armco, and saves it at the cost of Ben Fuller in the battle of wills, the battle of minds. Mark Usher now just needs 2 good laps to bring himself home and dry.
Yeah, he certainly does. It's going to be a really easy win at this stage if he just keeps his head straight and focuses on bringing it home at this stage for Mark Usher. But Ben Fuller is going to have his hands full for these last 2 laps to try and hold off the current reigning champion of Marco Sanfilippo. With the speed that Marco's had, it's going to be a very hard task, but Ben's been very, very quick in these last few laps, so it's probably going to be quite even, but Marco's going to have that advantage in the straight line.
What a time to make a mistake like that, but Marco has a golden goose to get back 2nd place. It's half a second behind for 4th place as well. Keep that in mind. Here comes Marco Sanfilippo then, trying to get the move done. Ben Fuller hard defensive, but look at the pace that Marco has here on the outside. Can he get it slowed down quick enough on the brakes? And close, but not enough. Marco up into 2nd position. Danilo will not have such luck chasing down one Mr. Clayton McLeod. He is stuck waiting still to try and find a way through, and I'm not sure if he can get it done now, that he'll get it done ever.
Nearly had a move at turn 1 into La Source, but just couldn't quite do it, and locked the brake as well, running a little bit deeper on the brakes. So we'll see what happens between Danilo and Clayton, but looking like Clayton's probably got the advantage over Danilo at this stage, like you said.
Exactly, and that's the key. It's all about the advantage, and it's very, very clear at this point in time where that advantage is and who has got what. At this moment, we got ourselves a lap and a little bit here. Mark Usher is clear, and there is traffic for Marco Sanfilippo in the form of Steve Giori, who should get out of the way and does so. They're on the right-hand side to just make sure that Marco Sanfilippo gets no discernible benefit. Awkward place to catch for Ben Fuller. Straight to the inside. Deals very well. One final lap coming then for one Mr. Mark Usher, who leads this event by enough. That's all that matters right now. That gap will have come down over this lap. It comes down to 2 seconds exactly, but 2 seconds against Mark Usher is going to be tough. He'll be dialing it back to about 95% and hoping that he's just got enough to bring it home. Marco will still be pushing, trying to hope there is one mistake that will come up. Danilo Sanfilippo, though, that gap out to 1.1 seconds all over again. That position not going to be really fought for. John Pat Kelly is through on Joel Dickinson and has moved up into 10th place, the final spot inside that top 10, and has done a great job so far of dealing with all of the pressures that come along. But Mark Usher at the moment, he's got exactly what he needs here in this race, and that is a gap. And he is hoping that that gap keeps himself clean from now to the end. This is his sector now, coming up as he runs down the hill, past that fantastic Jackie X corner, the massive cliff on the right-hand side, and continues towards that mid-sector of the lap. Danilo Sanfilippo absolutely nowhere right now, will have no chance of really closing that gap down. Ben Fuller is not close enough to get anywhere near Marco Sanfilippo over the final lap then of this race. Mark Usher now heads himself to the campus corner and looks at this race thinking, oh, I've only got a couple of corners to get right. It's flat out from here at corner Paul Frere all the way now towards the final chicane, and he knows one braking zone remains between him and starting off his jumbo 13-week season absolutely perfectly. It was a battle of minds today between two drivers, a battle of philosophy, but it's all about that fragility, and he was strong. He was absolutely magnificent. Mark Usher starts the season off with victory at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, certainly did everything that he needed to at the end of the day. He looked like he didn't have the pace at the beginning, but once he got into clean air, that was it. It was straight into the lead, and away he was. It was nearly second place if Marco hadn't have made a mistake, but it was a battle of wits, like you said, Sperry, and he managed to come out on top.
And that was the key here today. It was always going to be a tough battle for drivers here today, and they ultimately find themselves in a great place. There's Ray Griffio in there, 7th and 8th, trying to close down Serpa, but he's run out of laps to do so to try and get that gap to what he needed. He was 1.4 seconds short of making that move on the final lap of this race. But what a fantastic run these drivers have there. Will go all the way to Jan Stratinsky there in 15th place. He will be the last finisher here in this one. They officially get about 2 minutes 50 around Spa-Francorchamps to try and get themselves over the line, and that includes for those who do not have fuel left in the car. Freckleton coming over the line right now, doing a good job. So what we can do for you, it's unofficial until Stratinsky crosses the line, but it will become official in just a handful of seconds' time. But Mark Usher picks up the win in 52 minutes and 45 seconds here today. He wins by 1.3 over Marco Sanfilippo, whose mistake 3 laps from the end cost him a big shot of picking up the race victory overall. Ben Fuller had his fair share of mistakes as well. He finishes 3rd, but watch his lap 1 once again, because he goes from 4th to 1st off of the start with the best start I have ever seen in this series to date. Clayton McLeod comes home with 4th position. He rode out the battle with Danilo Sanfilippo, and he very much just bored him into submission. Jody Mills, a quiet 6th place overall, ran on his own for the majority of the event, with Jose Serpa 7th and Ray Griffioen in 8th. Alex Ahuia had a spin late in the race. He gets 9th place for car number 9, and John Pat Kelly rounds out here the top 10.
And we'll go back to the rest of your field. P11 will go to Joel Dickinson, Dylan Freckleton, and David Carmer in 12th and 13th. Very good drives from those two coming from outside the top 15. Connor Harrington comes in at P14, and rounding out the top 15 will be Jan Strutinsky. You go back to Steve Giori and Diego Hormel a lap down, and then your unfortunate retirees, Kia Polin, Antonio Zagotha, Alexei Heinonen, Andre Eisenhower, Tamajane, and Amelia Fernandez.
Yep, so a few retirements here today, 6 of them to be precise, 2 drivers finishing a lap down, but it was absolutely exciting from start to end here at Spa-Francorchamps, and of course this is by no means over in terms of a season. In 1 week's time here on SimSpeed TV, if you haven't already, like, share, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, if you're on wherever you are watching Facebook live as well, this is going to be a key battleground, Zandvoort, for the 2nd round of the championship. Worth noting, it's not got that fancy new banking going around the circuit. circuit, but what it does have is a very, very tough challenge. And Cam, it's going to be completely different from what we have here today at Spa, going just a little bit up into the Netherlands here from Belgium and going to the sandy dunes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a radical difference. It's tight and twisty, and there's no room for error at all with no major runoffs. So it's going to be all about high downforce and making sure you don't make any mistakes and keeping it on the black stuff at the end of the day, because if you drop a wheel off onto that gravel or that grass, you're probably going to be race over.
And that race over is what some of these drivers really do not want. And there's some great stuff coming up over the next week. Of course, you've got the likes of the Aussie Car Series that are going on, the Turbo Touring cars, and of course the Skip Barbers and the V8 Series as well, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, here with SimSpeed on the iRacing Esports Network. Monday night V8 will be coming into full effect, as well as, of course, the XL Series, which has been fantastic to watch as well as that. But from those who get it done for us, Motum Simulations have been the sponsor for the replays here today, and they've done a fantastic job of keeping a good eye on absolutely everything. From Jay Kennedy, who has been behind the cameras, and Cam Dance on my left-hand side, I've been Jake Sperry. It is Mark Usher who starts the season off right. A win, a hard-fought win, but it's all about needing that next stage. Got to start building momentum. Got to start building win upon win upon win. Because if you can get that going, it makes it so much tougher for those behind. We'll see you in a week's time as we head to Zandvoort.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rhythm. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God,